Welcome to Financial Freedom for Women Entrepreneurs. I'm Penelope Jane Smith, and in season 1 of this series, I'm interviewing other women entrepreneurs on how they became financially free, because you can learn so much from their experiences to support you in creating more wealth and financial freedom in your own life. Today's special guest is Elizabeth Burrows, founder and CEO of Burrows Consulting, which specializes in writing healthcare grants. I met Elizabeth a little over a year ago in Naples, Florida, at a gathering for high-level women entrepreneurs, and I was impressed with her right away. Since then, as I have gotten to know her better, I learned more about her investing journey, and I was like, oh my God, we need to have her on this show, and I'm so glad that she said yes. So let's tap the like button and get ready to be inspired by the amazing Elizabeth Burrows. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I'm excited to hear more about your story. And I actually, in the last year and a bit that I've gotten to know you, like every time you open your mouth, I'm like, she's so funny. She's so interesting. Like, I love your sense of humor. I love the way you see the world. And I'm so excited to dig into your financial freedom journey here and where this business came from and where these investments came from. And I want to hear it all. But to start off with, I want to hear, where are you zooming in from today?
Well, again, thank you for having me, and it's great to connect. I always appreciate connecting with like-minded people like yourself. And I am zooming in from Covington, Indiana, which is about 2 hours south of Chicago on the Indiana-Illinois state line. I live close to my dad's farm or my parents' farm, where I grew up. I thought I was never coming back, and yet here I am to raise my own kids. So, right in
What
the heart of the West.
what inspired you to come back?
Well, I'm an only child, so definitely close with my family. I had a lot of aging grandparents at the time, and I love the rural community and close-knit communities where I grew up. I have very fond memories, and I wanted to offer that to my own daughters. So,
That's so cool. And are you involved at all with your family's farm? I remember you mentioning sheep and stuff. Do you have your own animals?
yes. We've done different 4-H things. My cousins have kind of taken over my dad. I watched my dad be an entrepreneur and build up really from nothing and kind of absorb his family farm with his brother. And I have a totally separate business, but I do get to see it. I get to hang out there, see all my family who are also close. So I don't work in it day to day, but it is a joy to see the great work that my family's doing. And I'm very supportive of that.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. I have a really tight-knit family too. I grew up in the same house as my grandparents. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mine were right next door. So if I didn't like what mom had for dinner, I got to walk right across the yard to grandma's and sometimes both. So
yeah.
yeah, it was great. Great
Yeah,
memory.
that's so good. I grew up I was born in San Francisco and grew up in the East Bay, the San Francisco Bay Area, and we had what I refer to as the family compound. So it was like my grandma, my grandpa, my mom, my dad until, they've divorced when I was 8, but for a while they were both there, and then me and my sister, and over time different aunts and cousins and siblings, have lived there, and then eventually when my grandma passed away, the compound was sold. But I loved growing up with my
Yeah.
grandparents in the house. And I love that my kids now get to hang out with their grandma and as much as possible with their grandpa as well. So I love that you're doing that. Can you share a little bit about your business? Like, what is your main business that you do now?
So I work specifically with healthcare organizations, and we help healthcare organizations get grants. So we do a lot of grant writing, grant research, and identify funding streams. And then we also help healthcare organizations get more money through Medicare, Medicaid, and the 340B drug program. So it's very
Okay.
rewarding.
So,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, how did you go from the farm to that? Like, how do you get into that? I have no idea.
Well, a couple things. One, I had the opportunity to write my first grant at age 19. In my hometown of Cayuga, Indiana, was named one of the worst 3 in the country by USDA, Rural Development. And so they threw resources toward those 3 horrible hometowns, one of which was mine. They hired me to work in the summers and while I was in college to write grants and help do community development. And so that's what sucked me into grants. I wrote my first grant to the Gates Foundation, got internet and computers at our local rural libraries. So that was really exciting. And then From there, I always was part of grants. I thought I was going to go to law school. I did go to law school, passed the bar, all of those things, and decided maybe I didn't want to practice law. Got back into grants and worked with state government. And people said, hey, why don't you move back home and start a federally qualified health center? On my lifetime bucket list was to start and run a nonprofit. So that wasn't really exactly what I thought I was going to do, but I thought, well, at 26, I can go ahead and cross that off. I'll start and run a nonprofit. And so they had a grant and they had a building and said, figure it out, hire doctors, hire nurses, get this thing up and going. And that's exactly what I did. And I loved it. And I was in healthcare administration. I did that, ran a health center, Valley Professionals Community Health Center from 2007 to 2014 and loved every minute. But then at that point is when I kind of spun off and started my own company where I took what I liked from healthcare administration, all the paperwork and all the grant writing and all the program development, and decided to turn it into a business.
That's amazing. When did you officially start the business? What year?
2014, I
Okay.
did it. I knew I was leaving my health center, so I started then. It started as a side hustle, as many businesses do. So I thought I'm going to sit on my couch and write grants to put in my kids' 529 funds.
Nice.
Um, and so that was the original goal. And that's how I did it to begin with for about 2.5 years, at which point then I was like, okay, this is getting real. And so then in 2016, I went full time. And then in 2019, started adding to my team and really growing it. So,
Amazing. And
um,
now it's like seven-figure company, right?
yes, almost to hit 8 figures. And that's the goal here,
Okay.
maybe this year or next year. And we're high profitability. It's a very low cost company. So, really, we have teams, everyone's remote. And again, we're making a huge impact. Last year, we were able to impact 1.6 million patients across the country in
Wow.
over 45 states. And this year, our goal is to impact over 2.5 million patients. So,
Amazing. I love that you have these clear intentions and you're like, okay, we're going for this. And you're such a self-starter, go-getter, like awesome person. I love it. The you
thank you.
said you were 9 years old when you did the first grant?
19.
19, 19.
19. So I've been doing it for 25 years. I will say though, my daughter is 14. She wrote her first grant at age 12. So I do start people early, and grants are intimidating to a lot of people, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, anyone can do it. And that's what we do. We help people. We take all the headache off of healthcare organizations. But if you're thinking, should I write a grant for my kids' T-ball team or whatever? Yes, do it. Anybody can do it. Read the instructions, follow it, and once you get your first one, you'll be addicted to when you get to see the impact it has on communities. So
Oh, that's amazing. That's even for women business owners, which is like my niche and women
yeah,
support. You can apply for grants for women business owners to help
yes,
them
you
grow
can.
your business and have a bigger impact, And like at this point, I've been doing this for over 20 years. We've given away millions of dollars in scholarships to give people the financial education that they never got at home or in school growing up. And if we could like use grant, I did get one grant. I got a $5,000
There
grant
you
and I
see?
used it to expand our impact and it was really great. And now I'm thinking in this conversation, I'm like, I should do more of that because of course,
Yes,
if we
you should.
have that, then we can support way more people and like finances, are a big problem for a
Exactly.
lot of people. So you're inspiring me, Elizabeth. I love this. And we haven't even gotten to the investing yet, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. But I imagine that at 19, seeing that, oh my God, I did this and here was the result in my community. Now we have computers. Like
Right. The
that's
internet.
that's got
And
to be
that was the
so powerful.
funny thing. Exactly. And the funny thing was, I thought all these younger people, because I was mad when I came home and I couldn't send an email from the farm. And the funny thing was, when I came back, I thought it'd be all these younger people using the computers. It wasn't. It was all these senior citizens who had heard about internet shopping or this thing called the internet. Keep in mind, it's back in the year 2000, and they were all so excited to finally have access. And I mean, that now, we take these things for granted, but that was really a differentiator for rural communities at the time.
And how did that feel? Were you like, oh my God, I did that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Totally addicted. I loved it. And I think that's why I always came back to grants because, even today we got a video from a client. a rural health clinic in Tennessee that we helped get three mobile clinics for.
Mm.
And he's videoing this mobile clinic that's been built for him, and it's beautiful and it's amazing, and it's going to go to these rural areas that maybe haven't had access to care. And that is completely what motivates me, is the impact that you can have.
That's awesome. I love it. So I feel like we've got a good hit on the main business. Now, you
Yeah,
mentioned your kids' 529 plans. Where did you even hear about a 529 plan? What is that? How did you
yeah.
decide to invest it? Were you already investing in other stuff? Like, okay, let me back up. Where did the investing start?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely growing up, I had a dad who was an entrepreneur who was constantly buying new farm ground, investing in his business, buying new equipment. And sometimes going into debt a lot to do so. I was excited for him and scared at the same time for him. And so I've always kind of grown up with that, and hearing my parents talking about that. And then definitely, I had showed animals all through growing up when I was in 4-H and sold them and made money. So I had savings for my college, and then also for my study abroad and travel opportunities while I was in college and law school. And so that had been a big gift for me. And my parents had saved money for my college, and then I got a full ride. And so they said, well, we're going to change that to retirement. So woohoo for them, and for me. But also, so I was really lucky that I just had very small debt from law school. And so knowing that, where did I hear about 529s? I'm pretty sure I saw things about them at the state fair and on TV that you needed to have 529s. So as soon as my kids were born, and my parents had bought me life insurance when I was first born. And as a person then who's battled chronic illnesses and have struggled to get life insurance, the first thing when I had kids was, okay, I have to have a will because I'm a lawyer and I know that. Second thing is, they need to have life insurance, because what if then they get diagnosed with a long-term illness or whatever, like me, and have struggled to get future life insurance? So I bought their life insurance plans when they were just a few months old and started their 529s. And so my first daughter, I wrote a extra grant over Thanksgiving and put $10,000 in her fund for Christmas. So that was my oldest daughter's first Christmas gift from Santa,
Wow.
mom, dad, everything was 10 grand put in her 529. And I gave up, I lost a whole week of Thanksgiving with her, but my husband was off. So he spent the whole week, and he goes, trust me, she's going to thank you later. So even as a mom, it was like, okay, I was stopping, taking breaks to breastfeed her, but then I was writing a grant every other minute. Had Thanksgiving dinner with my family and still went back to writing that week. But again, still a decision I thought was smart. So that was kind of how we started investing in that. And then later, decided to do some other things, but that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And so your parents, when they saved for your education, was that a 529 plan? Was it just a savings account? Like, what did
Yeah,
that?
it was some sort of, and you're probably going to cringe. I don't really remember. I think an annuity plan or something like that, that they had saved in, and they could then, it either it somehow was set up. I mean, I think they were just going to withdraw it and put it toward my college, but instead they just left it in. And I don't even think they've withdrawn it now, even though they're retiring. So I'm not for sure exactly. I would have to ask them again, but I know they were really proud of the fact that they had been putting $50 a month, I think, since I was about 7, away from my college. And as a first generation college student, that's really big, right? Because they had not went to any higher education beyond high school. So they were extremely proud of that.
That's
And then I had grandparents who were really great about sending me a card with like money in it, $100 bill, $50 bill, that type of thing, to kind of help me get through school. And again, I graduated with a law degree and only had about $50,000 of debt, which is great. Even
yeah.
for those times, that was great.
Huge,
So yeah,
huge gift. And something this is sparking in me is the power of like starting early and letting that compound interest work for you, even if it's just interest on a savings account or an annuity, like that's better than
right,
not doing it, right? And
correct,
like if you
correct,
take $50 a month from the time you're 25 to the time you're 65, if you could get like a 15% return on that, then you'll have invested $24,000 over the course of your life. That's not that much, but it would grow to over 1.5 million. That's
exactly,
so I love that they
exactly.
did that for you. I think that they completely deserve to be proud. I'm proud of them, and I don't
Hey,
even know them. That's absolutely awesome. And so you were like, okay, this is already in my consciousness because of this that when I have
Right.
kids, I'm going to start the 529 plan, which is an educational savings plan in the US, in case you're not familiar with that.
Right.
They probably have
With
equivalent
tax benefits.
with tax benefits, right? So like the money can grow tax free and you can withdraw it tax free or use it tax free for their education. And if the kid doesn't end up going to school, you can use it for a sibling. Like there's other things that
Right.
you can do with it, which is really cool. So we have those for our kids too, and it's great. And then I didn't think about the life insurance thing because I was like, well, why does a baby need life insurance? Because I think of that as, you want to insure against something happening to you if there's people depending on
Right.
your income or
Right.
your labor, right? So like I
Right.
have $1 million policy on me in case something happens to me because Paul doesn't need my income, but he would need to hire Mary Poppins
Correct.
to help take care of
Correct.
it. So I guess he needs it that in that way. So we have that. We have
Right.
a couple
But
different.
as a person who, I battle Crohn's disease, which is why
Yeah,
I'm passionate about helping healthcare organizations. So there have been times in my life when I am uninsurable because of too many
yeah,
hospital stays. So again, I am so blessed because I have not been in the hospital for more than one night in 5 years and a month, which is a record since I was 13 years old. So thankful for that. But again, looking at that, my family does need my income. Okay, my husband's a teacher at my kid's school, which I mean they do. He does amazing work there. He has a PhD. He could do other things. He's
yeah,
chosen to do that, so he doesn't miss one moment of our kids' lives, and I love him for that. But that is not the lifestyle to which my family is accustomed to, is one teacher salary. Okay.
yeah,
So, I wanted to have our house paid off. I wanted to make sure that if I died, they do have a life insurance policy that could make sure that they all live the same life that, they're accustomed to, my husband and my daughters. And again, that was important for me because I have a friend who also was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. They almost can become uninsurable for a lot of years, or a friend who's had cancer at a young age and she couldn't get any more life insurance. And her family also relies on her salary as an attorney. So again, just thinking of that and making sure you have that. When I bought that for my children, it's not that they have a huge life insurance policy. I think it's like a 50 or $100,000 policy, but
yeah.
it ensures for the rest of their life they can buy so much more too as they grow. So I was actually just talking to our insurance agent to up that, to make sure that they have that capability. They are perfectly healthy. I'm so blessed and lucky with that. But again, it is something to consider.
Yeah, I didn't think about like, okay, my sons, like they might need life insurance in the future for their families, and what if they couldn't qualify at that time? Like I didn't think about that angle of it. So I think that's really interesting. And if you're listening, if you're tuning into this and you're like, too late, my parents didn't do that for me, and you're uninsurable, but you want life insurance, there are some ways you can still get it. You can cobble together some of these smaller policies. They tend to be more expensive, but sometimes you can get one through like your credit card company or your insurance company where you might be uninsurable for like a regular policy, but you can get this little 5,000, 10,000, $20,000
Yes.
policy and like
And that's what I've been doing.
pull
Yes.
some of those together. So did you do that? Did you start getting some of those little things?
No, but I did up the one my parents bought me at birth as much as possible. And I bought another life insurance policy and I went through 10 carriers and finally the 10th agreed to take me on at a really expensive rate. So that type of thing. So actually I'm getting reevaluated now. My prices should go down dramatically. But again, just thinking through those things. And also, as someone told me too, I mean, you can self-insure. And so that's been something too, working toward financial freedom and just, finding other modes of passive income and other things that my family could have if for some reason I was no longer able to work.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And you've been able to create that with some of your other investments. So
Yeah.
other than just saving for kids' education or life insurance, where would you say your investing journey started? Like, have you ever put money into like a 401k or an
Oh, yes.
IRA or, rental real estate or something like that? Like, where
All
did,
of the above. So definitely we have, 401ks. When I started, it was a 403b because I worked for nonprofits, and then we transferred that to a 401k, separate Roth IRAs for all four of my family members. We have a company similar to a company pension plan. You would know the exact tax terms. I don't, but I have built that and started that. So all the money that we can possibly do tax-free in tax shelters, we max all of that out each and every year. And anything that can be matched. So my husband has matching at his job. I've had matching at past jobs. Anything that you can match, we always do, of course, and trying to max that out. And then the other thing we've done a couple different things. We've invested in Airbnbs. And we have three homes now that we rent out in high traffic areas and places that we also like to go visit. So when we get to go on our vacations, they can be tax write-offs because we're checking on our Airbnbs. And then we've invested partially a small portion we own of a multifamily unit apartment complex in a large city in America as well. So.
That's amazing. How old were you when you started contributing to the 403B?
I did it as soon at my first job. So straight out of law school, my first job, I started contributing at age 25, anything maximum I could for matching. At that point, it was about 6% of my salary. And now I think we're up to about 15 to 25%, depending on the year, is what we're putting straight into retirement. So as much as we possibly can.
That's cool. So
Um,
you started early and you just kept going and like that's what you want to do, right? Ideally, it's just like
yes. And not look at it. Right now, I don't look at any of it. Just it's a long-term, gain. We're just going with it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So you have the 4Ks and Roth IRAs and you're like doing taking advantage of these accounts that give you tax breaks, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. Then how did you decide how to invest inside of the account? Because that's just a type of account, right? But you don't want to just have the money sitting there in cash. You want to buy stocks or mutual funds or
Right.
bonds or something. So how did you figure out what to buy inside of that account?
Well, it may not be the smartest, but I do have a financial planner that helps me because, and I negotiate rates with him. So, I also have a lot of friends from college that are financial planners. So I had them check what I'm doing, and they're like, "Your financial planner is doing the exact same thing that we would tell you to do." You probably want to know what that is. And honestly, I can't rattle it off. It's set up whatever is the ideal amount for a person who's 44 years old that is wants to go a little higher risk. That's where I am.
Yeah.
Um, and always looking at that. Definitely one thing that is also a little controversial is I always like to have my own house paid off so that the house we live in is paid off. We've always done that just so it's like that's just I want to know that. We do have on our Airbnbs, one is completely paid off. The other two do have mortgages, but we own a large percentage of those.
Mhm.
And the goal again is that we're getting 10% of what we of the value of the home each year in rentals. So again, it's quickly paying for itself. And we're able to, definitely have equity in those homes.
Mhm.
So.
That's fantastic. What gave you this idea to buy something to rent on Airbnb? Like, where did that even come from?
Well, so a few things. One, my dad has always said property, real estate, anything that you own, when you own land, which is what farmers love, it always has went up in value dramatically.
Yeah.
I had done a lot of research on what kind of investments could cash flow. And to be honest, farm ground, which is what my family loves, does not cash flow at all. Even if you farm it, it doesn't really cash flow very well. But I had done various research. I had a cousin who had done some apartment complexes, talked about Section 308 apartment complexes for housing for low income people and how they had cash flowed that. So I talked to him. I decided that really wasn't my thing either. I kept reading about Airbnbs. I myself was staying in Airbnbs. And at the time, I kept saying, okay, every year I'm going on the vacation to the Indiana Dunes, which is 2 hours from my house up by on Lake Michigan. So I should consider that. At the same time, I knew they were going into soon be named a national park,
Mm.
which would increase the amount of tourism to that location. So we actually bought a house, our first one in April of 2020 against the odds. So things were cheap and it has since went up by 2.5 times in value because it was then named a national park. And so a house that we bought has already, more than doubled in value. And plus, we are making not quite 10% each summer in Airbnb. This summer, actually, we've decided it's not really worth it. We're just like letting friends and family use it and renting it just a handful of weeks because, again, we've been extremely blessed and just want to help others. And honestly, we're doing a lot of work to it and we really don't want renters to tear it up. So renters will, even if they're paying, $1,500 a night, $1,000 a night to stay in your house, they will do some damage to it. So we're going to do some renovations and make it really nice. The other two we have one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, about 1 mile from Dollywood, which Dolly
Okay.
Parton is my idol. So I love that. And we have one less than 10 minutes from the Disney and Universal parks in Orlando, Florida. And it rents a ton. In fact, when we purchased it, it was already rented 75% of the rest of the year. And we just purchased it in February.
Amazing.
So
So it was already an Airbnb? And
It
you,
was already an Airbnb. We purchased it, and you take that's a lesson that's learned. So when it's already in rental rotation and rental income, you agree to take on the rentals. You can refuse that. Why would you want to? You already know that's income. So the Tennessee home, all three homes we've bought have already had rentals, and we just agreed to take those on. So
okay.
we already knew what income we were getting. So like we already knew we were going to get the goal again is to get 10% of what we purchased. We already knew we were guaranteed 8% of what we purchased for the Orlando home
Mhm.
back. So again, our goal is to pay it off, within 10 years to get 10% back. So again, we're right in that area.
I
So if
love,
it rents,
I,
we
I
never,
love this. I love this strategy because anytime you can take something that like you want to do, just even for yourself and your family, like these vacations and places you were going anyway, if you can find a way to turn that into a legit business expense, yay, tax deductions. And
well,
then,
exactly. My
you
kids
know,
love going to the Disney parks. It's their happy place, even though they are 13 and almost 15. You would think they would have grown out of it. They have not grown out of going to any of the
I haven't
parks.
either.
So, and it is a happy place for them. So that's exciting. Again, a rental, and again, these houses are appreciating in value too. So it's been awesome.
Do you think that at some point you'll sell it and reinvest it for something that gives you even more cash flow? Is that your plan?
I don't know. The plan originally, and as a person who has battled illness, and, faced uncertainty with that and health issues, I always wanted to make sure that my family had that passive income. So again, trying to get those paid off. So we have a house that makes money in the summer, houses that make money in the winter, so now it's like they would have that income year round. So that's where I'm trying to get to where my family has about 200K in passive income throughout the year. So then if something did happen where I couldn't work, they could still live the lifestyle to which they're accustomed, plus have that continual income.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Right now, we've talked about selling our house at Lake Michigan to get a larger one, maybe with a carriage house or something like that. But honestly, the real estate market is so hot up there. As soon as you put something on the market, it sells within like 24 hours. So you almost have to know it just from the inside. So we have not had like an insider purchase to be able to do that. But maybe. And I'm always looking for something else, the next great thing. So again, we just purchased in 2024 into the multi-unit family complex. So we'll see how that turns out. And it's supposed to have on average about a 12 to 17% return for a 3-year short-term investment. So we'll see, I don't know.
Okay, that's fantastic. Have you talked to your financial advisor about how much passive income you can pull off of your retirement accounts without like killing the golden goose?
Yes, and he keeps asking when I want to retire because he's like, because I keep saying, how much do I need to invest? He's like, well, when do you want to retire? I love what I do. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, but right now I love my job and I'm living, I talk about like we want to live our rich life. I listen to a lot of Ramit Sethi stuff and I've read his books. So I'm like, I'm living my rich life. I'm trying to, be as smart as possible in investments, but I don't know. The best is yet to come, I think, but I just don't know. But retirement, that is not necessarily in my near future. My kids' college, we've pretty much saved all for that, even for them to go to private school. So, we'll see what is next. I just don't know.
Yeah, well, I love that. I mean, based on everything you've got going on, like you're financially free now. Like you could just
Correct.
stop working now, which is awesome.
Correct.
But it's not about just like, okay, now I want to just go like sit on the beach and not do anything with my life. Like you're doing something that has deep meaning to you,
Correct.
and you get to see that impact and you get to, make sure that your family is like very comfortable. And so you're a very driven person. So I don't see you just
Right.
like, okay, I'm
And that's how I grew up. I mean,
not
have you
doing
met
anything
farmers?
else.
They don't stop working. Farmers don't reap. My parents are allegedly retired. They're always doing something. I mean, they can't, they don't sit around there. And so again, I love what I do. There are times that, can I make changes and tweaks and can I buy simplicity in my life? Of course. Yes. Today, guess what? For the first time, I paid someone to come wash my windows inside now. Okay.
Ooh.
I've never done
Both
that before. It
worlds.
might be It might be a little thing to you, but like I'm looking at my windows, oh my gosh, they look great. So, I am buying freedom in those types of things. And of course, could I retire now? I probably could, but it may not be the lifestyle that I want. And again, I still feel like I'm called to make an impact on this world. So, I'm going to keep getting healthcare organizations grants. And right now they need the help more than ever. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's so good. How many kids do you have, Elizabeth?
Just two daughters, and I'm teaching them to be financially free. I hope they already have their 529s, they have Roth IRAs, all the things. They're being paid through my business too. And so, trying to teach them about money and financial freedom. And we talk about this stuff regularly in our home. Um,
Well,
so
I
they're
love
going to live.
how with the Airbnb strategy, you're now taking money that would just be going to taxes and you're putting it into assets instead. And that like
Oh, yeah.
just totally makes me so happy. I want to ask you, like, I also have two kids, right? Now they're younger than yours, but you've got so much going on. Like you have this business, you have this team, you have this family. How do you find time to go find and manage these investments, like this new rental property, the Airbnbs, like, and
Yes.
by the way, you don't even live there. So like, how are you?
Right. Well, we
That
do
happen?
we do hire it out,
Mhm.
and this is my secret test method. We call like five companies. Whoever calls us back first is who we hire because who's going to return the call on your renters? Okay. So you're all like, okay, that's obvious, but it's not obvious to people. The other thing too with business, you know how many contracts I get because people say you were the first person to call me back or email me back, or you were the only person that actually returned my website inquiry. I get work like that so much. So I try to be super attentive. We also have management companies that help.
Mhm.
My husband honestly does a lot of that, and he is a real estate professional. So, also a tax plug. There you go. And so, in addition to his teaching, he does that in the evenings and in the summer. So, we definitely do that. And I do, based on everyone that I've learned from you and others in the trust, I recently hired a house manager who's helping us on some of that, including some of our rental properties to help my home here. So, that's been extremely helpful. And then also just trying to be efficient as possible. So, my time with my family is super important. So I don't clean my home. I don't cook. I've given that up recently. Things like that I can hire out or have other people assist me on. I do that because my time with my kids, my husband, that's the most important thing. And then my time in my business is going to yield more. So, I've read Buy Back Your Time and all these books that are trying to help us to be able to, contract out what I can where I'm working on the highest level of my ability. And also in my company, even with my rental properties, having everyone that works for you working to the highest level of their ability too. So, moving people up, putting people in different positions and, building your team more to be able to scale and serve more clients, make more money, generate more revenue, have more renters, all of the things.
Yeah. So with everything you've got going on right now, Elizabeth, what are you most fired up about right now?
Oh, I get fired up about everything. So, I mean, definitely, trying to have, I'm big on this year. One of my big goals is us for no more. So just spending time with my husband and my kids, really valuable time. It was actually something, one of my friends at church told me that her mom implemented was us for no more. So really trying to implement that. And when you have a daughter in high school and junior high, and they're in a lot of activities and you're busy with your business, like really trying to value that time where it is the four of you and having as quality time as possible, high quality vacations. We just got back from Hawaii where we all flew first class. That's a first. And really trying to live our best rich life that way. Also, what am I fired up about? I'm always fired up about bringing healthcare to underserved people. So again, until I have to drive, in fact, next week I have to go for my checkups for Crohn's disease. I'm in the best health of my life, adult life for sure, but I have to drive 9 hours one way to get health care to keep me in the best health of my life. So again, until everyone in this country, including my own kids, have Mayo Clinic quality care right at their own home or right at their schools, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Oh,
So
I love that vision. That's so powerful. Like Mayo Clinic quality care right here. Everybody has that. I think everybody who's
exactly.
watching this can get on board with that. So that's amazing.
Because it
Elizabeth,
doesn't matter how rich you are, if you don't have your health, you really have nothing. So that definitely is huge.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything you wish I'd asked that I didn't, or any last thoughts you want to share?
I think too, just one thing is don't let things limit you. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would be here, I would have been like, no, what is she talking about? But, I think sometimes we settle for good. I say when God has great things for us. So, just keep challenging yourself. I know you do that, Penelope. I know that you encourage your followers to do that. But again, just keep doing that. I'm always trying to, what can we do better? What is the next thing? And, keep challenging yourself and those around you. And I believe great things are in store for all of us.
That's so wonderful. And if people are tuning to this and they want to like connect more with you and learn more about your business, where can they find
Yeah.
you?
Burrows Consulting. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Burrowsconsulting.net is my website. We just finally got to purchase burrowsconsulting.com, so we'll have that soon. And reach out to me through any of the socials and we'll get back with you. You also can always email me if you have any questions, Elizabeth@burrowsconsulting.net.
Um,
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Elizabeth. This is so fantastic. I know you're like, this is just my life, but like for us, it's completely fascinating. So thank you so much for who you are. Thank you so much for what you do in the world and for your family and for all these millions of people that you're impacting. And thank you so much for taking some of your precious time to be here with us. We really, really appreciate it. Wow, right? I hope you got as much out of that conversation as I did. I am so inspired by Elizabeth's passion for health equity and her vision of everyone having access to Mayo Clinic quality of care. I also loved her Airbnb strategy and her hot tips for finding the right property management company. I'm already talking to my husband about adding this to our investment strategy, especially since we go to Southern California so often to take the kids to Legoland, SeaWorld, Disney. There's so much fun stuff to do that it just might make sense. If you want to learn more about Elizabeth's work, make sure to visit burrowsconsulting.net and check out Burrows Consulting on social media. Thanks for watching and have a beautiful day.